Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Striker AI Media, the podcast where we highlight entrepreneurs and builders behind the businesses that make our community strong and more beautiful. I'm your host, Drew Stokes, and every week I sit down with leaders who are creating impact through hard work, vision, and a whole lot of persistence. Today's guest is Mike Madson, president and founder of Colorwheel Painting. For over 20 years, Colorwheel has been helping homeowners and businesses transform their spaces through expert painting, from fine interior finishes to exterior makeovers. Mike and his team has built a reputation for craftsmanship, trust, and a service that goes beyond just applying paint. We're going to be talking to Mike about Mike's journey, what it takes to build a respected painting company, challenges, opportunities in the industry, and how Colorwheels continue to stand out in a competitive space. Well, let's jump into it. Mike, thanks for being here. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for hosting.
Absolutely. So let's, just jump right into it. Tell us a little bit more about, for those of us who don't know, a little bit more about what you guys offer and what you guys do.
Sure. So I think pretty easy to stereotype what a painting company is. We all have our notions, but Colorwheel itself, historically, we'd paint almost anything we could, I think, to make money, which is how a lot of guys start. Fair enough. As the years went on, we kind of carved out our niche. We are kind of a premier provider in the area for cabinet painting, cabinet refinishing. We do a lot of work in a business-to-business context with remodel firms. We do a lot of pre-finishing in our workshop. All those millwork packages, weird one-offs, vanities, cabinets. We do the interior. We've got a team that does interior painting out in the field as well. That is about 15 full-time employees here doing that for us. And we do wallpaper installation, a little bit of drywall repair. I think a lot of painting companies will dabble, but probably not do full-on drywall. Beyond that, we do a little bit of historic preservation work. We even some little goofy things, mural work, gilding. Yeah, a little bit of exterior too.
I mean, that's a great story. What led you to get into the painting industry, and how did you get Colorwheel up and started?
So I went to school for architecture and happened to also explore entrepreneurial business, kind of realizing and getting in touch with my own personality. I didn't make a great employee for anybody as a young man, so I knew I had to do something my own way. So I looked at starting businesses. I had worked, like a lot of us in the industry, for one of the bigger franchise operations, so that was a little bit of my exposure to the industry. But I think ultimately I did this personal reflection on what kind of things make me happy, what do I enjoy doing. And the home improvement space appealed to me, and specifically painting. I find I'm a very visual person, and of course in this industry you get a lot of immediate gratification, coming in the morning, and at the end of the day a space is completely transformed.
So painting can sometimes be just a commodity service, but you built a premium design driving business. How do you describe how Colorwheel is different?
Well, gosh, man, great question. I don't think we're doing anything exceptional that somebody else couldn't copy. There's no secret sauce per se. I do really, though, tend to think about the customer's experience, the customer journey, the average homeowner, kind of looking at this as a commodity. And, I do a lot of training with our entire staff going, guys, you know what? Like, any painter is going to pride themselves on, like, how fast they can cut and how the lines are, and, that they do a nice job. I said, but really in our industry, that's implied. If you ask any homeowner, they're going to say, of course, that's what they want. Right? So that is the expectation, whether people realize it or not. No one hires a painter that is going to do crooked lines or poor coverage. Where I'm really going with that then is that it's allowed us to kind of key in on the customer experience, creating an easy experience for them, one that can hold their hand, guide them, be the guide to give them, a great experience. And to me, a great experience is it's being timely on phone calls and emails. It's giving them the information they need. It's giving them assurances. It's being there with them, from the start to the finish, and truly caring and standing by what we do, and not just having some sense of on to the next one. It's not a production focus. It's an experience focus.
That's great. What would you say? What's something about professional painting that homeowners don't usually realize until they've been through the process with you?
Yeah, again, it's kind of like that sales strategy there, where it's that they expect the straight lines and whatnot, and that's not what this is about for them. So most of our compliments at the end of the day are, wow, your staff was so easy to work with. Everybody was so nice. Everybody made us feel comfortable. We knew we could leave the house and not have a concern in the world. We knew you'd be fine with the pets around. You clearly took care of our space, and it made this an enjoyable experience. So it's much more the entire experience, the entire feeling that is created. It's not really the work itself. I realize there's variables in how well people do their painting work. I think we've all seen bad paint jobs and medium and really high-end work, but I guess that caliber of work is ironed out on the front end, what the customer's looking for, and from there it becomes just completely about that customer experience, all the feelings that are invoked.
Wow. So, painting is, I would say, one of the fastest ways to completely transform a space. I
For
just
sure.
bought a, I just bought a oceanfront condo about 6 months ago, and it had some ugly burnt yellow walls, and we just painted everything white, and it just completely opened up the space and made it feel like $50,000 remodel with simple colors. How do
Yeah.
you help client choose colors, finishes, styles that match their vision?
Yeah, so we're fortunate in the sense that we work a lot with other designers on that business to business front. Usually there's a design team involved already, and we don't have to get too overly involved on that. Or just direct with an interior design firm where they're already speccing it and coordinating it with the wall coverings and other finishes in the home. When we do have to do it, of course, we're paying attention a bit to the industry trend, but we're in a very conservative market here. Trends don't impact the Milwaukee metro area the way they do other parts of the country. People are a little bit more conservative, a little bit slower to change or not change at all. So we also have a market where we are very bottlenecked in color choices because a lot of the trim packages in our homes are oak, stained and finished oak. And so you're going to have the natural tones already guiding us in a certain direction with that we have to kind of play with, unless we're going to a white painted trim package. But, it's really understanding the space, what people are trying to accomplish, I guess, and going through that. And our sales guys can help guide on color choices with that.
I mean, yeah, I was going to say, like, do people come in with a predetermined color that they want, or they really
They
rely
usually
on your
have,
guys?
yeah, they usually have an idea. So what we like to say is you have to at least get us, I guess, some idea of where you want to be, and we'll help guide you a little bit. We will go to that granular level of saying, okay, look, we know you like this grayish, this grayish beige or whatever. But let's go ahead and check the formula and just make sure we understand the pigments in it, because all of a sudden if we see that it has red in it, right, it's going to take off a certain direction, and then we'll help people kind of look at that or go, okay, this is actually really clean. It's essentially just got a lot of black or brown in it. So we'll help people just kind of you know, identify those color choices, understand what undertones are actually in there, what the ingredients, what the pigment ingredients are, and help them understand where that color could shift to based on their lighting.
Okay. So, so you serve, both homeowners and businesses. What are
Yeah.
some of the biggest differences in those projects, and which sides excites you more these days?
Well, I think what's neat about business to business work is the scale of the project typically. It's pretty uncommon that just a homeowner directly is going to call us and have a massive project. Usually the bigger projects, which are very exciting, right? Because you're changing the entire home, you're doing more finishes, more colors typically, maybe getting wall coverings involved. Those bigger jobs tend to be with that business to business side of it. Those excite us. I don't know the average sale price around the country, but a lot of those for us are anywhere from a $50,000 to a $80,000 job. So, they're just fun. They really are. You got to watch your bottom line because they can get away from you. But when you do them well, they're very rewarding and very profitable.
So are you seeing any trends you're seeing in the painting industry, like things like eco-friendly paint, bold colors making a comeback, or new finish techniques, anything like that?
Yeah, we talked about this earlier, just the wall coverings are coming back. I realize it's a little bit of a parallel industry, but certainly we're seeing a big uptick in wallpaper installation type work. From a painting standpoint, though, at least around here, we're certainly shifting away from gray. For a number of years, it was gray this, gray that, and 20 years ago, it was all beige, or 30 years ago. So we've kind of gone through these different eras. I'd say we're returning a little bit more to some of the earth tones in the brown to neutral tan type family, at least here in this market. We continue to see trim being converted over to all painted white. That's heavily influenced for us by people moving in from East and West Coast. They typically come in here and go, we can't handle all this oak, we can't handle all this wood look. It feels like a cabin. We want it clean and white. Other than that,
Yeah.
not much else.
I mean, are you seeing like a comeback in bold color? For me, I've always loved color in anything that I do. Like, for
Yeah,
example, way back when I was in college at my fraternity, we could paint our walls. So I painted one room all bright orange because I loved it. And then I painted another room like charcoal gray with accents of lime green to have that pop. So I've always been a fan of eye-popping color. Obviously, I can only do that then because my wife now would never let me do that now, right? So I had to take
right.
advantage of while I could. Are you seeing like a like millennial or certain demographics of people liking certain colors or boldness or muted or um,
Gosh.
earthy?
It's kind of interesting, but I'm seeing I hate to say the word old because it's not said in a bad way, but the older crowd that hires us right now is kind of going back to this almost like white boxing feel. I don't know if they've just kind of like gone through all the color phases, but I'm seeing a return to just saying, hey, paint everything white and we're going to go ahead and just accent with all the artwork and other things in the home. But then the younger people are definitely still doing bold color. Our 30 to 45-year-old crowd still getting some rooms just being done in all black, and we're getting some of the rooms where you're just getting that entire tone just on everything, right? All the ceilings, all the walls, all the trim, just all one color, and we're only playing with the sheen difference on each surface. Those, for us, at least in this market, tend to be a little bit more subdued, a little bit of the softer colors. I wish that there were some bold and vibrant colors. That would be a lot more fun. Just not a ton of it, other than maybe some turquoise here and there.
Okay, yeah, turquoise is big. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a neat color.
For our kind of we painted our accent wall like turquoise.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Now kind of transition into maybe some of the hard like setbacks you've had. I mean, running a specialty service company always comes with its challenges. What's been one of those biggest hurdles for Colorwheel recently, whether it's labor, supply chains, or anything else?
Yeah, I guess biggest challenge for us, I think, has been changing from solvent-based over to water-based systems, and I think a lot of people have probably gone through that. It's EPA going ahead and making it harder and harder, more restrictions on the solvent-based, and then people just having a public health awareness of, oh my, there's a lot of nasty chemicals in the house. Let's get rid of this. So a little bit of a shift, I guess, going that way. Um, and just with learning water-based coatings, especially in the workshop, they are finicky. They are very sensitive to humidity. They are very sensitive to temperature. And getting a Cadillac level finish with a water-based finish with varying conditions in the environment around us, boy, man, that's been a tricky one to get our head around.
Have the tariffs played any impact on paint imports? I mean, I don't really know where paint is made, to be honest, but
Yeah, a little bit. So we work with some Italian companies. I don't know if I can say name brands or not here, so I'll refrain for now. But yeah, a recent tariff of 10% increase just came through on one of those. Supplier said, hey, we'll split it, and I kind of said, well, that's weird, but whatever they want to do. But yeah, and is that a massive game changer? No, I think, the tariffs impact us, but what percentage of a project value is paint? Really they're paying for labor.
has labor been a challenge for you? Because I mean,
Yeah,
obviously labor
a
has
bit.
gone up, right? And
I mean, I think a lot of people always say, oh, it's hard to find good people. And I think that is somewhat true. I think it's about what you create, though, as a company, your culture. And, you have to find the right people that fit with your own culture and own it. And, you're also going to get what you pay for with people. A lot of guys will say it to the customer, you get what you pay for, but then they'll have a different philosophy in terms of paying their own help. And it's like, well, that's just not how it works, right? So good people cost money. They're an investment, but then they don't cause you headaches. They do bring a good customer experience. You can set them a lot more on autopilot. And once you get that ball rolling, it starts taking care of itself, and your bill rates go up and profitability rises as well. But I would say you've got to be willing to invest in your people. You can't build a high-end painting company with guys who are making $15 an hour. It's just not going to happen. They're never going to care at the level you need them to care. Um, I've also always encouraged getting kind of being a home for guys and gals who are, I guess, sunsetting their career. It's been kind of a nice way to offer them flexibility in hours and yet get them on board as reliable parts of our business. And they bring all that wisdom, life lessons to the table, and that's been a nice move for our staff just to get that kind of influence from those individuals, highly skilled. So
Wow.
yeah.
So now transitioning more towards like technology. Technology is changing everything, even in painting, I imagine. Are you using tools like digital color, previews, project management softwares, or any innovation to improve customer experience or your business?
Yeah, it's definitely on the customer face. I've been in business 21 years, and when I started, it was a very basic 5-page website. I think an ad in the yellow pages and maybe some yard signs. It was so simple back then. But technology now, gosh, it's everywhere in the business if you think about it, because guys are punching in and out on an app. That app's integrating with another app that ties to accounting. That's tied back to the software going ahead that we write our estimates in. We're not doing this on scratch pads anymore. There's no carbon copy paper where I keep a copy, you take a copy. Technology is just embedded. I mean, you don't even think about it as being technology, right? But just sending emails, all the phone systems, the virtual receptionists, trained AI to answer our Google reviews. So you kind of can just keep going with it, right? The AI thing, it's scary, but also super cool. It's even helped me just, hey, I'm having this issue with an employee. What do you recommend? And all of a sudden you've got these resources at your fingertips that we never used to have. So it's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I'm glad you brought it up. So, like, our community, obviously loves talking about AI and the different capabilities. So I was going to say, are you involving AI in your business at all, or experimenting with it, outside of ChatGPT or?
Yeah, just a little. Not so much for color though. Again, we're not overly involved in that process. So not so much with that, and not really using like the rooms to create a preview image or show me what my room would look like this or like that. I've not explored that. I guess I'm just a little, I don't know, boring. Maybe customers are doing it. But other than that, like I said, with AI, just doing any of the other stuff that you need. That's been a nice resource. How do
So
I
so you
respond to this email? How do I respond to that? And it can give you some good guidance. If you have a difficult customer, even help me create a response to this customer. Here's the problems that they've brought up, or here are their concerns, and it's kind of neat. I don't necessarily rely on it, but it's nice as a kind of an auxiliary resource.
Yeah, I mean, as the owner of your company, you're always looking ways to make things more efficient. So I imagine,
Right.
if AI can do that for you in maybe a more complex way, I imagine that could be, a pretty helpful tool for you, to reduce cost or increase revenue or lead flow. I guess how are you guys getting your leads for your business? Is it a lot of referral or?
Yeah, I mean, referrals huge. Of course, for guys starting out in the business, there's not a ton of volume yet to get referrals from, right? So that's something you have to build through the years and years. And referrals huge in that regard. I would say that the best way to kind of ramp that up real quick, not that you asked, but for the younger guys and starting out, it's hey, start building your network. You can't just rely on technology. You got to get away, get out from behind the computer. You got to go shake hands. You got to meet people, make relationships. In this market, at least, I think I'm starting to see a resurgence of that. We all like technology, but I think emotionally and something intrinsic in our human experience is saying, hey, we want human interaction. We need the authenticity of it, the genuine vibe that comes along with it. So for me, I'm very active in professional groups. We get a lot of referrals from those. We constantly are inviting people to our workshop kind of for little like lunch and learn or shop tour events, just to have actual face to face. Those are the lasting impressions. That's going to work a lot better to build a referral source than sending out a flyer to somebody's house. But we're pretty traditional otherwise for lead gen. We're doing, of course, all the meta suite, the social media type stuff. I've got to up my game on that, to be honest. So we'll get there. We've done radio advertising. It's been pretty effective in our market. We've done a bit of streaming cable advertising as well, just to get actual live image in front of people. We do home shows. That's still a thing in our market as well. Actually, consumer shows where we've got all the different vendors there and people come through and walk the aisles and look at roofing and siding and windows and painting service. So, and then you get just this straight up, like almost grassroots level door hangers, vehicle signage, yard signs, of course, and they still work. They've got their place. So kind of a blend of the new and the old. I'd say the Google local service has been really nice for us too. You got to pay attention to it. You've got to answer the phone, and the more you do it, the more it's paying off.
Are you getting a lot of phone calls, like dealing with consumers interested, wants
Yep.
quotes or
Yep,
appointments?
lots of phone calls come in, phones ringing many times a day, and you got to pick up the phone. If you're not answering, you're not getting it. People are on to the next guy.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's part of that business infrastructure for sure.
Great. Now, so looking ahead for Colorwheel, where do you see Colorwheel in the next few years? Are there any services, markets, opportunities you're especially excited about?
Well, a big thing for us recently in the last few months was putting a general manager in place. So I've kind of stepped back. And strategically, we're just making some moves that way. So, right now, I think on staff is around 23 people, give or take. And I'd like to kind of kick that up probably closer to 30. But I'm not trying to be the biggest company in town. That's never been a goal for me. I'm not necessarily driven by some huge sales number, some volume thing. I'm not motivated to just say, hey, we're the biggest in town. None of that does much for me personally. We all have our different motivations. For me, our workshop is probably my biggest next push. Right now we've got a 10,000 square foot space. We typically have 3 to 4 people working in it full time, but capacity to double it. And that's going to be a big push for us. Just get more in the door, underneath our roof, in our own control, and get that stuff moving in and out the door. So I'd like to be a really known resource to all the businesses in the area where if they need something done on that pre-finishing side, they can drop it off and have it back in 2 weeks as kind of a very reliable timeline.
So I imagine for that 10,000 square foot space, is that really kind of used for like the paint cabinets? I imagine because you got to take them off, take them to the
Right.
right.
Yeah, exactly. So we have 3 spray booths in here. One's an enclosed, and then 2 are open. One's a really big open, and yeah, so like a lot of guys, well, I shouldn't say a lot, I guess I don't know, but if we're doing a cabinet job, we want to take all the stuff off that we possibly can and handle it in our workshop. So that's just huge for control. And so we're constantly doing that and then reinstalling later. That's great for quality control for sure. But then we also have what I call our door line in our workshop, and that's pretty cool. I was fortunate to have an engineering brain, and I created a system where we can hang 60 doors at a time, and those pass forward and back in front of our open face spray booth so that we can spray right in that booth and yet process up to 60 doors at a time. And so we've partnered with a couple door companies in the market that just replace doors for people, and we go ahead and get them all custom finished for that homeowner. Doors come here, get custom finished, they get picked up and out and installed. So that's been a really nice thing we want to do more of as well.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I would say, not many painters have that 10,000 square foot facility, and so that's definitely a
Yeah,
differentiator for you guys.
it's been a big part of just kind of my own mantra on wealth creation is having to own your own asset, own your own building. And there were a lot of steps involved. I was that guy who started out of my house and had a truck, worked in the garage for a while. You go through that phase. At one point, outgrew that space and didn't necessarily have a ton of money to throw at real estate, but I found a guy selling his commercial building on a land contract, and I bought that. We lived and worked and breathed in that space for a number of years till we outgrew it, and I sold that and bought an even bigger space. So this space is actually 20,000 square feet. I rent out half of it, so that kind of helps financially. The rent money helps pay the nut, and I got a lot more space, a lot more bang for my buck, and hopefully have a real estate asset in my portfolio as well. So I think it is kind of something that a lot of painting companies, to have your own workshop like that, I think a lot of them look past it and just focus on always being in people's home. That's fine, but there is an opportunity there to build out a workshop and really have it function very well. I'm sure it varies market to market who is and isn't there, and that opportunity Even if it is there, doesn't mean you still can't do it and do it better than the next guy.
Absolutely. So as we kind of wind down this interview, if you could give one piece of advice to homeowners considering a paint project, what would it be?
Homeowners, yeah. I think that they should actually, it's broad, but they should actually investigate what's about to happen in their home. You know, we talked about painting being viewed as a commodity, but when you really think about people coming into your home, well, who are they? How long have they been at that company? Are they trusted? Can you leave the house? You know, what about the quality of paint? You know, I think a lot of guys try to be just solely focused on price competitiveness, so they use cheap paint. Well, now you spent a bunch of money on labor only to put cheap paint on your wall. So I think the consumer needs to really realize this is a buying decision and there are things to consider. And like I said, any painter worth a darn should do straight lines and all of that. But can you reach them when you want to? Are they responding to emails, phone calls? Are they courteous? Does it have a good staff? Will they be there in the future for you? So I think there's a bigger picture homeowners need to look at and stop treating it like a commodity. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is capitalism, right? There's a difference in price point and different prices across different painting companies. There's a reason, right? There's a reason we charge what we do. There's a reason the low guy can only charge what he can charge. Low price might not be good. You might be shooting yourself in the foot. You might be creating a big mess for yourself. So, like anything, you do get what you pay for. This is not an exception to the rule.
Great insight there. Great advice. So as we close this out, we always like to kind of finish it off with quick questions, quick hitter questions you can answer in one word or one sentence less.
Boy.
So let's just start it off. Favorite color to paint currently?
Favorite color to paint? I think we nailed it with turquoise before. I know it just
Okay.
makes me happy.
It does. It's coastal and yeah. Would you say you're an early bird or a night owl?
Me? Early.
Favorite business tool or app right now?
Ooh, for me, it's Contractor Foreman. That's our big, like, run everything program.
First job you ever had?
Yeah, in the painting business or first job?
Ever.
I was a caddy at a golf course.
Oh, really? Most underrated skill in your industry?
Ooh, I would say trim painting.
What did you said? What did you say?
Trim painting.
Oh, trim. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I know this is quick hitters, but holy crap, there's such a difference in how guys do trim. And there's amateur level and then there's elite, and there is a massive difference.
Let's see here. One word your team would use to describe you.
Fair.
Good. We always need a fair man. Best advice you ever received.
Oh, goodness. You know, the one that came to mind is just sometimes good is good enough. But, you know, I say that as more like running the business. I think sometimes we all aspire to be this top tier premium brand, and we're looking at all these things out in the world that we see, all these stores from Target to Kohl's to Home Depot, Menards. It's like, you don't have to be that guy. Not all your marketing has to be perfect and super professional. Not all your videos, right? Like, you can just be authentic, and it's okay to be the smaller guy. And to that purpose, sometimes good is good enough. Don't waste a bunch of time chasing perfection. Just keep everything moving.
Yeah. I agree. If you weren't in this industry, what would you be doing?
I'd probably be a tour guide, traveling tour guide.
Awesome. Favorite way to unwind after a long day?
Gosh, a bottle of tequila and some friends.
Nice. One thing you wish every customer knew.
Gosh, boy, just one thing. Again, you're gonna get what you pay for. Again, it's a platitude. It's a theme for me, but for a reason.
Okay. Then lastly, something on your bucket list.
Bucket list. Oh, man. To get my pilot's license.
Yeah, my brother's doing the exact same thing.
Yeah. I mean, more specifically, beyond that, though, I got to be honest, I really want to get in a fighter jet and experience that.
Okay. Well, we will end it there. So that's going to be a wrap on today's episode with Stryker AI Media. A big thanks to Mike for sharing his stories and the vision behind Colorwheel painting. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you hit the follow so you never miss an episode. And if you know homeowners or businesses who are thinking about making a new look for their space, send this their way.